particular radio station, I was saddened. I was saddened by the level of discussion, along with comments and guidance from the hosts who appeared hell-bent on stimulating fear and anxiety amongst a poor and vulnerable group of workers. Be that as it may, even more saddening to me was the fact that the host was aided and abetted in his facilitation of this disinformation and public manipulation by a former former chief medical officer, I should say, along with a former deputy prime minister and minister of labor. The modus operandi was clear from the beginning of their political discourse, which lasted approximately 1 hour, after which the distinct pattern and or the method of politics they all spewed was very clear to most who listened. I was saddened because, notwithstanding the fact that the good doctor and former CMO has specialty training, I should say, in the development, care and disease of children as a pediatrician, and I believe that his basic medical training and experience must have taught him that pandemics can be stressful. The coronavirus disease or COVID-19 pandemic is no exception. It has been stressful for all of us, as the fear and anxiety about this new disease, the lack of a vaccine up to now, unemployment, economic downturn, the unknowns about what could happen to us as a people can be overwhelming and has already caused strong emotions in adults and children. Public health actions such as social distancing can make people feel isolated and lonely and can increase stress and anxiety. Although these actions are necessary to reduce the spread of COVID-19. As a medical doctor, then, if he cares about us as a people, then he should help us all to cope with stress in a healthy way. And this will make us, our communities and our country much strong. Because I'm sure we will agree that Team Unity has done a good job within the circumstances, and many would concur with this caller as well.
On the question about the COVID response here, I have to give the government high kudos for that, without question. I flew in here February 11th from United States, and when I came at the airport, the customs people were already wearing their masks and their gloves. And even before that, a few weeks before that, when I heard what was happening worldwide, I went to a particular pharmacy to get masks, and they were saying they were all sold out or they didn't have any, something to that effect. So we jumped the gun very early. And I am surprised today when I'm here in the U.S. saying that, the places are still talking about whether they should wear masks or not. So I think Senkis did a very good job with it. I think the medical team and the national emergency did a very good job in terms of informing folks and informing everybody of what is happening and what is happening worldwide.
So for the former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Labour, who was trained at the Union College at Ruskin Hall in the city or district of Oxford in England, this should have given him a voice to defend the disenfranchised working class people. It should have also empowered him to act effectively on behalf of the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labour Union, which I believe has sponsored his attendance. Instead, he comes before us, an intelligent population, with a silly proposition like this one, my Straight Talk family.
I always like to put things in context. Context is everything. And you have to have the historical context, right? But after 1980, after you had the change of government in 1980, when the trade union was systematically undermined and dismantled, and so the workers didn't have any organization to represent them, we had put in place what we call the Protection of Employment Act that was supposed to do the work of the trade union.
What nonsense. How could a Protection and Employment Act do the work of a trade union? And perhaps, as this former Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Labour wants to fabricate his own history. Because in fact, unions were illegal here in St. Kitts before 1940 and came out of the Moyne Commission following the Buckley's riots or uprisings on January 28, 1935. And there is still a Trade Union Act, as a matter of fact, because the Act to provide for the registration and regulation of trade unions and to provide for related or incidental matters actually came into force in February 1940. And that Act still exists today with its last amendment in 1983, the Act number 15, I think, of 1983. There are trade union regulations and rules of the High Court Trade Unions rules, etc. So trade unions are still registered according to the Act. And the Section 12 of the Trade Unions Act speaks to the registrar, and I quote, shall keep a register of all trade unions registered under this Act in the form required by the regulations and shall discharge all duties required by the regulations. So this false information is either intended to mislead the unsuspecting workers of this land, or it is a lack of knowledge of the history of the union and the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and or the peddling of propaganda issued by a former government minister who now lacks credibility and or relevance. Sam was trained at the Union College at Ruskin, I said. What has he done for the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labour Union? Denzel Douglas, worse yet. Denzel Douglas don't even go to Massey's house. Denzel Douglas is the first leader of the Labour Party who was not president of the, or even a member of the trade union. Look at the actions of Denzel Douglas. The office, the headquarters of the Labour Party under his watch is upstairs Best for Less. He holds his conferences at Marriott, not at the Massey's house. He now has an office down there in Port Zante and the Sands Complex. So Douglas don't go to Massey's house, and that is the problem with him, and that is the problem with the union. My Straight Talk family, we are thankful nonetheless to people. Thankfully, the people, I should say, saw through the bitterness of the Astafans and the Condas and totally rejected them on the June 5th election, general election. It is sad when supposedly educated people would come to the public and speak from a point of ignorance or simply allow politics to stand in the way of reasoning. Or is this why, according to Sam Connor himself, people think that he is stupid? And he said that himself. Is it an inferiority complex, my Straight Talk family? This is the what is displayed after 18 years of membership in a government. And those are not my words. They are his words if you think I'm trying to be facetious, by Straight Talk family.
They don't credit me. And I don't make no fuss about that, because that is not for me. What I know, once I know what I'm doing, is what I believe, what I think. I'm not saying that I am no scholar, I'm not brain, I know anything, I know everything. I'm not saying that. In fact, the best that could be said about me is that maybe I was an average student, and you don't have to be more than that to, but people think that I'm stupid. I ain't got no sense. I always have to follow what people say.
And those are not my words. I mean, you heard him for himself. People think he's stupid. Perhaps that is why his former boss Douglas referred to him like this, my straight dog family.
Tell them don't play with me, you know. You don't understand how much it hurts me to be speaking like this about former colleagues, you know. For 18 years, did you ever hear me say anything negative about any of them? Eh? You ever heard me? And they go out there and saying all kind of things about me. Well, one thing me show me no kuno muno.
They don't credit me, and I don't make no fuss about that, because that is not for me. What I know, once I know what I'm doing, is what I believe, what I think. I'm not saying that I am no scholar, I'm not brain, I know anything, I know everything. I'm not saying that. In fact, the best that could be said about me is that maybe I was an average student, and you don't have to be more than that to, you know, but people think that I'm stupid. I ain't gonna sense. I always have to follow what people say.
So was Douglas right? But straight out, truth be told, my straight dog family, in fact, to get the history right, after the Moyne Commission, like I said, and after the party got into office, the Labour Party, the Act of 1967, the Protection of Wages Act of 1967, was hastily amended, or rather it was amended 5 years after, in 1972, by the then Bradshaw government. And there was this amendment, Section 3 to the Act, which reads, and I quote, "The Principal Act is hereby amended by inserting as Section 29 immediately after Section 28 thereof the following, 29 subsection 1. Notwithstanding any or all of the provisions of the Principal Act, it shall be lawful for an employer acting in pursuance of a written agreement made between such employer and a union bargaining on behalf of the workers employed by such employer to deduct, underline, deduct from the wages of any worker or an amount representing union dues or equivalent thereof." And we are told that this was a cash cow. As a matter of fact, we are told that one year in the 1972 or 1973 thereabout, the union collected $1 million. Imagine $1 million in 1972 as force deducted union dues. But my straight dog family, come 1980, to put the records straight, the cash cow mashed up. Because the first act of 1980 under the PAM NRP administration, they gave the workers back their rights. And Act number 1 of 1980, Amendment Act 1980, to amend the Protection of Wages Ordinance of 1967. And this amendment of the ordinance, beg your pardon, reads, "The Protection of Wages Ordinance 1967 is amended by inserting the following immediately after Section 19. Deduction from obtaining or retaining employment prohibited." And it reads, Section 20. "Deductions in the form of direct or indirect payments for the purpose of obtaining or retaining employment shall not be made from the wages of a worker by an employer or by any intermediary or labor contractor or recruiter." Because you see, back then, my straight dog family, every company, for example, that came to St. Kitts would have had to sign an agreement with the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union, whether they like it or not. Remember the late Owen Keynes? You had to go down to Massey's house if you wanted a job. And that was wrong, and the PAM administration, PAM NRP administration changed that wrong, or put right that particular wrong, of forcibly deducting the union dues of workers who did not give permission. But thank God, my straight dog family, there are intelligent citizens around like Sister Sylvie Henry who can educate us as a people on the protection of employment and severance payment issues even though she's somewhat, and I don't say this disparagingly, she's somewhat incapacitated, but Sylviane Henry is always on the ball, and she knows what she says.
Conda knows that the Protection of Employment Act, he moved the amendment in 2002. He also knows that the severance fund has been in deficit for years. When they passed the gratuity, the thing for the workers, it had a negative 5.6 million. Mr. Conda sat down here. What has been happening in June is this. The money going in, but when you have more and more, like the factories come and they go, more has been coming out than what has been going in. That is what happened to the money.
And you see, cognizant of that fact, the Karen Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, capitalized the Severance Payment Fund as part of the stimulus package for the COVID-19 My Straight Dog family. And PM Harris did in fact capitalize the fund, and he announced this.
There will be the provision of additional resource in the region of $12 million to capitalize the Severance Payment Fund. The reason for this is self-obvious. With higher unemployment, we expect that there will be a greater demand upon the Severance Fund.
The PM further added that the fund was in red by Straight Dog family.
When we inherited the government of the country, the Severance Fund was in deep red, and we have sought professional advice to determine how best we can make the fund stronger. For the time being, and in response to what is emerging, the government will put $12 million in the Severance Payment Fund to ensure that those who qualified for their benefits will be able to have them. This is the heart of compassion of a responsible government.
Heart of compassion. Because no provisions were made for the long-term gratuity promised by the Douglas administration to the hospitality and the industrial side workers. After 10 years, you're told you can. We can claim for gratuity and move on. But no funds were made available to absorb that cost. And my Straight Dog family, there are contested views about the actions taken by our particular government. In terms
Conda knows that the Protection of Employment Act, he moved the amendment in 2002. He also...
The government has the responsibility to make sure that people get the severance payment. It has nothing to do with the money there or not.
They're supposed to do that. Listen to me. They do it out of the kindness of the heart.
Not is the responsibility.
What has been coming out, and you know that the people for Fort Thomas were never paid. How many people from factories still owe the long-term gratuity? Nothing was in there. And you know because you were in the government.
That being said, my Straight Dog family, about Section 28 of the Protection of Employment Act. Has been touted, and it gives a right to severance under the Act. And I must also say the structure of the fund, the severance payment contributions, are not part of the Social Security contributions, but are collected by the Social Security Office on behalf of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. And under the Protection of Employment Act number 6 of 1986, a contribution equal to 1% of the wages of employees is payable by employers to the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. All contributions are to be accounted for in a fund called the Severance Payments Fund, which is maintained by the Accountant General. The government, through the Labour Commissioner's Office, is responsible for paying severance payment out of this fund to workers who may be made redundant from time to time. So the Social Security Office has been given the mandate to collect contributions to the Severance Payments Fund and to pass on all such collections to the Accountant General. Now, Section 28, which has been touted a lot, and it speaks to laid off or suspended employees to claim severance payment. And it says where an employer lays off an employee or suspends an employee for a period of at least 12 weeks, the employee may request his or her employer to treat his or her employment as terminated, and the employee shall then be entitled to severance payment if he or she has worked for the same employer for at least 1 year and would be entitled to severance payment under Section 26, which speaks to the right to severance payment. But how can we get to 26 or 28 or 29 without first reading 5 and more importantly Section 7? And Section 5 speaks to the termination of employment, and it reads, except under paragraph F of this section, and that refers to the employer dying, where the employer dies and his or her business ceases to operate, employment may be terminated in writing by the employer in the following circumstances, and this is relevant to our discussion, and Section 511E subsection 4. And it reads, the employer finds that it is impossible for him or her to carry on his or her business at the usual rate or level due to the shortage of material or mechanical breakdown, or for any cause beyond his or her control. And very interesting. But Section 7 reads to the termination of employment, and it speaks to an employee with 3 months but less than 1 year's continuous service, you get 1 week notice, and or an employee paid on a monthly basis who has completed 5 years but less than 10 years of continuous service needs 2-3 months notice. But importantly as well, in this Section 7 subsection 2 is in lieu of notice. It reads, the employer may provide employee wages and other benefits to which the employee is entitled during the period of notice. And very importantly, it reads in subsection 3, where an employer contemplates laying off or terminating the employment of 10 or more employees, or 10% of or more employees, whichever is less, on any of the grounds specified under Section 5.1, which I just read at the same time, the employer shall, underline, the employer shall, not less than 1 month before any proposed layoff or termination, notify the Labor Commissioner in writing, giving the reasons for the layoff or terminations, the number and categories of employees affected, the period over which the terminations are intended to be carried out, and a summary of the results of any consultations with any trade union representing the employees. But remember, the Labor Department or the Department of Labor is primarily responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the laws and regulations relating to workplace safety and health, wage and our standards. I gave you that background information, my Straight Dog family, because what I want to ask you tonight, amongst other things, and to remind you as well, that we are still in a pandemic. And the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, has changed literally everything in this world we live in. We have deaths, and some people can't get funerals. Our mother or sister or family dies, and we can't attend the funerals because of border closures and other issues. The High Court meets virtually. So many things are done virtually. So I'm asking the question because there's a strong view in some quarters that the Protection of Employment Act, which is an act of Parliament that provides for severance pay in a normal, underline normal situation. If so, can we apply, should I say, this act during a pandemic? There's also a strong view in some quarters that the framers of the Protection of Employment Act, which is an act of Parliament, never contemplated a pandemic that brought the whole world to a screeching halt. Borders are closed to cross-border trade in goods and services. International commercial passenger traffic by air and sea prohibited. Cruise ship schedules are suspended. Economies all over are shut down. So has this pandemic changed the perspective? Has it changed the outlook? Has it changed the purpose or objective of the Protection of Employment Act? These are some of the questions I asked tonight. You may have your own comments and your own questions on the payment of severance during these unprecedented times. My Straight Dog family, I'm going to open the lines, and you will want to discuss this and any other matter as relates to what's happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But before I do so, I want to, as per usual, implore you to respect others. And of course, to achieve that, you must first respect yourselves. Let us try to be fair to all concerned. Let us try to build goodwill and better friendships. Let us ensure that the things we say and or do will be beneficial to all concerned. And let us, my Straight Dog family, in all we say and or do, let us strive to build a kinder, gentler St. Kitts and Nevis. With that said, at 20 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour, beg your pardon, I go to the lines. I've lost a caller, but 20 before 9 o'clock, or I should say 19 before 9, I go to the lines and take this caller. Call you live.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, my dear brother. The voice of the voiceless.
Good evening, humble servant. How are you?
I am peaceful, my brother.
And we always give thanks to the Almighty God.
I always do.
Yes. Let me digress a little bit here on my own thought process. You did mention that, and I will just briefly talk about it. You did mention that even the High Court had to improvise, so to speak, and conduct business virtual, right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct, my brother.
Okay, good. Let me give you my little quote for the night. I am from the town of Newtown, and it was always considered to be a fishing town. So I always grew up with this saying amongst the persons. Every day is fishing day, but not every day is catching day.
Catching day, right.
I want to liken to what I heard in some sort of shenanigans in terms of really asking for more time in the jurisprudence, the dispensation of the jurisprudence, as to but sorry, let me first greet you in my traditional way. Let me greet you in the presence of the ancestors before, in whose shoulders I stand, before I forget that. Let me get back to what I was saying. I liken the delay of asking for more time as like a fishing expedition, because I think the matter of hand should have been thought out on the opposite side. They should have been fully prepared and wanted to go into what they ought to do. Bearing in mind, I do agree that everyone has that right, their constitutional right, to exercise their rights into access to the court. But I liken all of that is like a fishing expedition in which Denzel Douglas and the next gen has started to go to the court for. But as we know, there's a biblical reference that says that you have to cast your net on the other side if you want to catch fish. And I'm afraid the person who has told the disciples to cast the net on the other side is not physically around. I'm not quite sure if Denzel wants to really listen to the spiritual voice. Like I grew up hearing my mother told me that when the big buzzer in your ear, it is some good news or a message from on high. If you cannot deal with the physical aspect of it, I don't think you will understand spiritual message. So I liken the whole shenanigans as like a fishing expedition. And like the old adage, every day is fishing day, but every day is not catching day. Ponder on that. Thanks for listening.
My brother, thanks a lot for your intervention. We go.
Remember your ancestors.
Yes, my dear brother, we go straight back to the lines. Caller, you alive? Hello, caller.
Good night, my.
Yes, my dear sister, are you there? Hello? Hello? Seem to have lost that caller. Let's take this other call. Caller, you're alive.
Good night to the Honorable Ian Patches. Good night.
My dear brother, politics, how about that? Is that a plane, an airplane you have landing on your strip?
Oh, no. Across to the road, you know, so it's a truck.
It's a truck? Wow, sound like an aircraft, man.
No, you're a truck, man. You're a truck.
What's up?
Truck passing, maybe school. Very school, you know. Dear Patches, let me move on. Patches, I want to thank God for people like Sylvie Henry, and I always say so. Mr. Watching Shanachi doesn't gone. He in the room. But thank God for his education he left here too. And his legacy left with us in the Federation, St. Kitts Nevis. Sylvie Henry, she's a strong and a bold woman. And she stands up to anybody in spite of she illness. Patches. And Patches, to be truthful, when I got to listen to Sam Kanda, Junie Liburd, and Dr. Martin, you understand? I think it was Friday, and talking about the situation of the COVID package where the Prime Minister has given the people and from the source to the Social Security. You know, Patches is all kind of twist and turn. They're gonna let the rejoicing that these things take place. The government ain't been COVID-19 here. You understand? It's a worldwide thing. And they're going on like, you know, that, you know, saying all kind of thing. I want to know what Dr. Martin do as a CMO when he was there. What greatness has done with any pandemic, with any situation. Look at the Basti High School. He make a back with the teachers them up the Basti High School when he was there at the CMO. And he couldn't ask them the mouth closed down. You understand? Thing was happening, and he's free to talk, speak out, and no comment on radio. Who going to take them the serious, Patches? Who really going to take them the serious? Patches, when I got to listen to those people, it look like they make a mock and a laugh after the people who ain't get the package and who get the redundancy money. In spite of whatever going on in the country. So for the pray to God that this thing could ease up and the borders them could open. You know? With the situation we're going on in the world. Patches, I put on in the news there at the BBC, and when I turn on the news, what the news on television, Patches, you know what happened? People in the country, they die from the corona. They die from can't get food to eat. Because the government can't make it to feed some of them. You understand? And this is the situation going on, and they're going on like the government is saying this thing, they put up to God that the country could open up, things could close down, things could slow down. And the country open up. All these negative things, and I'm disappointed in some as a former minister of government. You understand? But I believe somebody just leading him, and he just talking after he won. That is a wonderful night. God bless. If I get back.
A wonderful night as well. And what was saddening really is the anxiety, you know, and the fear that they're creating, you know, instigating. And people are really suffering and are so stressful. Saying goodnight to Veronica, Beatrice, Greg, my dear brother Carlton, Jean Dover. I haven't seen you, heard you from a long time. Let's go back to the lines. Call you live. Hello, caller.
Greetings in the name of our great African ancestors, especially the moon, Honorable Marcus Messiah, Gabi Queen, and say, God bless it, blessed evening, my beloved African brother. How are you and your family?
Peaceful, my dear brother. And you and yours?
Well, I'm okay somewhat. The lady name that you mentioned, Miriam Keynes, that's my great aunt, my maternal grandmother.
Okay.
Sister, you know.
Accept
brother.
My sympathies, man. You come from great stock, my brother.
Thank you, boy. Thank you, boy. So you see the fire, you know? Most of the fire come from, man. That's it.
I see.
Yes, brother. But, you see, when you hear certain people speak, you must not, pay them much mind, much attention, and don't be distracted by them. Like those three blind mice.
No, but it's not a distraction. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you have to correct the records because they're
that's
talking.
True, that's true. You're absolutely right, and you always say, Mr. Brother, when people throw more than you, if they throw a bucket of more than you throw 10 buckets on them, beloved brother, so they'll never do it again. Yeah, you got to respond in kind, but you don't waste much time in them. And let me congratulate again, commend, I must say, Queen Mother Henry. Brilliant sister, man. Queen Mother herself, a warrior queen. And brother, she did us cut them down 1 by 1, 2 by 2, or 3 by 3. Brilliant sister. And none of them could refute what she said because it's the fact, it's true. Beloved brother, it's true she will be speaking. She don't have no propaganda mission or nothing like that. She just bring the facts. And none of them cannot refute what she will be saying, beloved brother. And let me come on her again, Queen Mother. I love you, sister. But me congratulate this government to commend this government and to help those during the time of this pandemic in the first instance 3 months. And they're going to be doing more, brothers who all need help. And that's a loving and caring government who help its people in the times of need. Beloved brother, you can't find a better government. The one, I have some problems, but that's for another time, and that's another issue, brother. But brother, the pandemic, man, and the stimulus, beloved brother, is not the best in the Caribbean and further fields, beloved brother. So I commend the entire administration led by Dr. Harris. Brilliant brother, and all the others, man. And brother, looking for you two things. But when it comes to trade union, it's a shame and a damn disgrace, brother Patches. To me, I wouldn't even call that a union. I wouldn't even call that a union. Because that devil from Semper destroyed that union. Destroy. Look across the pond in Antigua and Barbuda. The Antigua Trades and Labor Union, vibrant still. That will align with the Antigua Labor Party. And the Antigua Workers Union, vibrant still, fighting for the people, which align with the United Progressive Party, United Progressive Party, and other teachers union, brother. So look at you, think it's a Nevis, no union, what? Oh yeah, you have the police welfare and the teachers. That is the only 2 unions you can mention. But what has become of that union that boy from Semper destroyed is that shame and a damn disgrace. Beloved brother, brother.
Yes, I got you.
When we go back, just give me a couple seconds. When you go back to court on the 30th, what's going to take place?
Well, the judge will give his directives, my brother. You're going to the judge's court. So I really can't say what will happen in his court because it's his court. But we expect that he'll give directives there.
All right.
We expect him to give his directives.
But, the judge so far been doing the right thing, the lawful thing, beloved brother. Because how many times must you want again? Come on, don't waste the court time. It was frivolous petition. Brother, continue to listen. Keep up the great works. Watch your back and watch who you eat from, beloved brother. Continue to listen. Pan-Africanism our perish. One love, beloved.
One love, my dear brother. We go straight back to the lines. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller. Are you there, caller?
Yes. Good night, my dear beloved brother.
My dear sister, you've tapped up the phone.
How are you? happened, but he just went out.
Okay, I'm peaceful. Yourself? I'm happy
And-
to be back in.
Okay. I like the topic on the severance pay. I remember Curtis Mattis had a number of workers, and they shut down the factory instantly without any notice. The workers were on the street, back and forth, looking for help. The Right Honorable Dr. Kennedy Simmons created severance pay when that happened. And the people could get something when they closed suddenly, like that. Douglas take over the country, throw him out of office, take over the country, and when he take it over, he put it in red. Hey, pure red, bright red, just like labor. And there was no severance pay until
Seem to have lost that call again. I don't know what's happening to that telephone. You were going so well. Are you there? Oh my! I'm so sorry. You're developing that story, and very interesting one. And you're so right. Douglas put the severance fund in red. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, sir.
How are you, my brother?
Not bad. Good night. I want to send out some condolence. My sympathy greetings going out to Ingrid Francis and her family on the passing of Joe Francis, the past Assistant Commissioner of Police, who passed away today in New York City. So I just want to send out my condolences. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Have a good night as well. We share those condolences with you. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
hello, good night. I just want to finish this point that the Honorable Timothy Harris made the severance pay in red, and he had to bill it back. So no matter what they say, it was in red. Labor could only destroy. They do not know how to build nothing. They build and they meet and they mash up. They only destroy. Yeah, the Honorable Timothy Harris brought back the severance pay. He built it back. The Right Honorable Kennedy Simmons created that fund, severance pay for workers, because Curtis Mattis closed down on them. People gone to work to them, which up go work now in the factory, they gone. And they come down 4th Street, come look for Dr. Simmons. I could remember very well. And all I'm saying, labor can do nothing but destroy and keep you poor. Had nothing to give but keep you poor, and you go to them like master days. You couldn't get a job unless you join the tribal union. And when you go ask for a job, they tell you come back in 2 weeks to investigate who you are. When they find out who you are, when you go back in the 2 weeks then, they tell you go to green pastures. And green pastures, you must go cut cane and weave it. So labor ain't nothing but pain. You take away a woman in a childbed, they have pure pain. Labor is pain and pure pain. Anyway, have a good night and safe journey home.
Thank you, my sister.
Bye.
Thank you for correcting the records there for us. And that is why. That is the exact reason outlined by that caller, my dear sister, why the People's Action Movement in 1980, the first act it passed in the Parliament was the Protection of Wages Amendment Act, which prohibited the deduction of the people's wages and the way that they had it set up. And the amendment reads, deductions in the form of direct or indirect payments for the purpose of obtaining or retaining employment shall not be made from the wages of a worker by an employer or by an intermediary or labor contractor or quota. Of course, the worker has that right to agree to it, but not to have a mandatory deduction without their concurrence. Caller, you're alive. Okay, caller, you're alive. Hello, caller.
Yes, good evening, Patrick.
Good evening, my dear brother.
How are you doing?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
Okay, I'm giving thanks. Now, let me explain something, right?
You got a radio?
You know, you was
You got a radio?
there in the working for Hostford and TDC and all of them, and Billy Walwyn and them. You know how much money those Kibido put into the union? Eh? And what they get from it? Nothing. Because the union gone. So when Sam talking, remember his brother still drying out of it and nothing up there. And he won't go look a walk. They're drying out of it. Out of the money from up there. What little nuts and thing down, they're making sure they get every cent from inside there. You understand me? So when they're criticizing this government stand firm to make sure that people get what it belongs to them and what ain't belongs to them, and they're willing to help them. This is what this government stands for. This government stands for caring people, to taking care of people, because they know they come from a poor family and they know what the mother and father went through. You understand me? Douglas had none of them there to say to go through nothing. You understand me? So they don't know how life is for poor people, and they come and they meet the union hall there and they wreck it. Not inch of a nail they drive in the union hall down there. There's a man there was in him, who used to sell chicken and bread and sound in the dance, skip dance. He bring a pontoon a lumber and fix back the union hall. You understand me? And when they're done, they throw out the man out the down there. You understand me? He fixed that union place. You understand? So they don't know, they don't care about nobody. You know, I don't tell you, don't need to study them, you know. Douglas and them is finished. They're gone completely out of society life. You understand me? Because they don't care nothing about people. You understand? And you see the other thing over Karen Bowler? The amount of bad word one of them get over there. You understand me? And I the first time he get bad word. But they were hoping to be governor. But things never went their way. And then they come back again and still arguing, telling the man step down. Step down and they had no money. Eh? The man give them money, all kind of money, to run for election because he was a Calypsonian and he figured they could win. Yes, Sam couldn't help him. Sam went in your tongue. In your tongue he went go help. He went back up the village where he born and bred. Nobody born in your tongue, I think. But he running up the village all the time. And he went up there to start a battle between you and the other joker. You know? And the joker says, jokish. The man allow the leader for the Labour Party to tell him don't go to the house. And now he will never put foot in there unless he's going to go visit somebody. You know? So when you hear them talking, leave them alone.
Okay.
Leave them alone because they're no better than what they is.
Gotcha, my brother.
You understand me?
Yes.
And one day I want some time, let me put them to bury. Because they're an ungrateful set of people. And Patrick, you know that. You know?
Yes.
All of them, I hear them grumble, you know. But when I take up my money and bring Douglas to the United States to meet people, I never even say no one named Douglas. You understand me? You know, when they're swaying down there, all the clothes they had on, one mine except the underpants. When you say, what the song you sing again?
Jesus loves me.
Oh Lord.
Yes, Jesus loves me.
Yes, Jesus love me. You understand me? And practice, you know me.
Yes,
When I read you, I read you.
Yes.
They used to just say, bell boy, call rock. Call rock. But this time, I never know was that. They were just using me. You understand me? But look at them. I'm laughing after them now, though. You understand me?
Okay, my
Yeah,
brother.
look the one day now.
Got you, my brother.
The one day who live Frigate Bay. She's selling it out, she's selling it car. And every Monday when they go cabinet meeting, it's only Rocky talking about up the airport, doing this, doing that. And Timothy turned to him and said, man, look, man, let's get on with government business. Every Monday you come here, all you're talking about rock. You understand me?
Okay,
You don't bother with them.
Got you, my brother.
You already forget back in and get back in.
Okay, my brother.
Okay, brother.
Thanks for your input. That's the People's King, Rockefeller. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Good night, Patrick.
Good night, my brother.
I was listening to the weekend news with Gonzal and the governor for Central. And I can't believe so much people and Kiga got working in a layout where belongs to them 370 and the rest of them got 35 and 40 and thing and now you think it name call. And that's why I have not supposed to put no money in that because look like all money is to pay the workers them. I smart them that pro now, but you see, I don't hear people calling from sink it. All people and politicians I talk about free movements and free, but that is not nice enough because them the one do they like. Me no vex with them now, you look with people, but there's too much people got what now they matter about put salary cup, they can't get no money now, smart them up, play a trick they believe they got no. I listen them now, I listen to news, with the man call out all the place them they connect to. You know hear nothing about sink it. You know hear about sink it, nobody ever call for all money now. You know, me tell the Prime Minister no give them no money, I go to see Prime Minister, I go make a appointment to see Prime Minister now. Because you can't give them no money. Nothing of the kind of crisis here. Let them keep the rate up there for themselves. Because there's too much people they got. Yeah, almost you hold on to upon that. But you have a good night here, and I see if we go home here.
Thanks a lot.
And the case win the case, right? Okay.
Back to my brother.
I want him out to and a drink.
Yes, my dear brother. Patches, good evening. I never thought I would say this, but Dwyer was right when Dougie stopped him from ridding our shores of the Chinese and Bacchus. Had he done that, Ken Richards would have known his place. Check back the police files of abductions. That is why Ken Richards wants to mash up our great federation, and he grudges you for he feel you know who did the flowering good warrior. Your victory is coming, family, reads this email. This other email reads, every day Earl Clark is on various radio stations, particularly Freedom, Manufacturing Lies, and More Lies. This man has a penchant for making up stories. Sean challenged him on radio to prove that what he was saying about him was true. The man was so embarrassed, all he could say, okay, let's move on. He tells so much lies on Dr. Simmons, Dr. Herbert, and his father. Last week he said Pam was affiliated to Trump Republican Party and officials from the U.S. usually come to St. Kitts to advise Pam Party. This man delusional, and I was told is long time ago he's telling lies on people that told me when he was in the police force. When people saw him coming, they run for safety because he would summons people for indecent language when he did not hear them swear. Partially they say he was terrible. That incorrigible liar Clark reads this email. This other email reads, Patches, the racist and bigot barbecue vendor, who I understand are being paid by Labour campaign team to criticize Team Unity on all radio calling programs, caused shame and embarrassment on herself last Friday. Same Team Unity has been saying they have surplus for the last 5 years, so why they don't pay 1 year surplus and pay workers their severance? But the bigot went on a tangent, saying she heard on radio the government is advising people to buy treasury bonds, and it tells her the government is running out of money. However, I must credit Mr. Kondo for letting her know in no uncertain terms that what she's saying is not so. The bigots don't even know that 4 times every year the Treasury send out notices for people to renew and purchase Treasury new bonds. It has nothing to do with the government running out of money. Woman, I am convinced that this woman is suffering from delusion or grandeur. My straight talk family, we go straight back to the lines. Caller, you live.
Goodness. Oh, what though?
I'm good. You have a radio or equipment on?
Yeah, turning it off. Turning it off.
Please, I like the whole world.
Oh, what though?
I am peaceful. And yourself?
Okay. I'm not too bad, not too bad. I'm just here listening to you. Anyway, your number, I tried calling it. I mean, she calling it and she said it's not working. The number I gave her. So, could you repeat it for me, please?
662-3617.
Say that again?
Say dos. Sorry, 662 3617.
You got Spanish now?
Habla español?
Hold on a minute.
Yes, 662.
Hold on a minute.
Okay.
Lord, I have a pen here and I'm trying to get it right, but it won't work. What you say now?
662
662
3617.
3617.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. How are you doing now?
I am peaceful. What about yourself?
I'm not too bad, but I would like to know why they put all the cases together like that.
Well,
you know?
But that's the recommendation of the trial judge, you know. So we don't question those things.
Oh, okay. 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 I just wanted to know, but you're all right, though.
Yeah,
and,
I'm peaceful. God's been good to me.
Just take it easy and let everything come together.
But
everything will come together. And I have a song to sing for you when everything comes. Even if it don't come true, I know God is still. He don't, if you see that it's not to be so, it will not be so. And if it is so, He will make it so. So take care and enjoy yourself. Just keep calm and quiet. And I hate to hear people telling you don't eat nothing from this person or that person. I don't like it. Because anything you eat, so long as you pray over it, God will protect you. You understand? Just bless everything that you eat. Nobody can harm you. And that is it. So have a good night. Enjoy yourself going home. Take care. Okay?
Thank you very much. Have yourself a good night as well.
Yes.
Dear family there in New York. Patches, I would like you to play part of the Freedom Issues program that occurred last Friday between Sam Conda and Lady Sylvine. The topic was to do with severance payments. Sam was accusing the government for failing to pay out the money, but Lady Henry had him up a gum tree with the inundated questions she posed. Sam was lost for answers. He just did not know what to say. It was quite evident that Lady Henry had all the facts. It was interesting to see how Dr. Martin and Junie was laughing at Sam, to see how he tried desperately to get away from the questions. Junie pleaded with Mrs. Henry to give him a chance to answer, but when they realized that Sam was inundated and could not find any plausible answer for Mrs. Henry and the listeners, they began talking over her. Old Lady Henry had him going. He needed to keep off the radio, for he had lost all credibility. He just making himself a big puppy show and having more people laughing at him. Reads this email, and that emailer is perhaps talking about something. This is part of what he's talking about.
The government has the responsibility to make sure that people get the severance payment. It has nothing to do with the money there or not.
They're supposed to do that. Listen to me. They do it out of the kindness of the heart.
Not is the responsibility.
What has been coming out, and you know that the people for Fort Thomas was never paid. How many people from factories still owe the long-term gratuity? Nothing was in there, and you know, because you were in the government.
Yes, my street dog family, and you see, I was going to say that. Well, let me read this email first of all. Mr. Liburd, last week I sent an email to Straight Talk inadvertently accusing Mr. Abel of Wynne for making erroneous statements in respect of the closure of the electoral office during an interview he held with Mr. Bailey, Supervisor of Elections on Freedom Radio. I feel impelled to write this email of apology to Mr. Abel, requesting that he please accept my apology for any inconvenience I may have caused. Mr. Liburd, the interviewer was Mr. Andrew Huey of Freedom and not Abel of Win FM. I must categorically state that only the names have been changed and the fact of the matter remains the same. Fair comment, I would also like to thank Mr. Boyne who called in to Straight Talk and pointed out my mistake. Once again, Mr. Boyne, thank you. Read this email. Yes, we did in fact correct that, but that's very, very good of you, caller, very gracious of you to call in and apologize. We all are human and we all make mistakes, and sometimes we do have to be careful though, the things we say. My Straight Talk family, at 17 past the 9 o'clock hour, in the event you have just joined us, we were actually referring to the issues of severance payment. We actually had to correct the nonsense that was peddled on radio last week. Somebody just referred to it when in fact the former deputy said this. But let's go to the lines and I'll get back to that. Caller, you live.
Good night, Patches. How are you?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Listen here. The former CMO, he said he was a doctor for children. But all the doctor he was for children is to put up children for adoption. Take them and put them in the hospital in children ward, and then people come from overseas and adopt the children then. A lot of children gone overseas, they don't even know the parents. They don't even know the parents that are loyal in St. Kitts. So he need to hush him out and come off the wage and stop chatting nonsense. I have a grandson, you understand? When he was a year and months, he did no wrong with the child. He treated him for whatever it was, and his doctor Jacobs used to find out what happened to the child, and he had a big thing up the hospital. Yeah, but almost my grandson almost dead.
I'm sorry. You finished. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt.
His Dr. Jacobs used to find out what happened to the child. He was treating this child for dengue. Yeah, he was treating him for dengue. And the child is swell out like the gingerbread boy. It's fat and shine. And the Saturday morning I went and released the mother. And she wanted to go home for she slept up there the night. And when I touched him and I went to the nurse, I said, feces for the death. And she said, let me check your chart. And she had to call him. And when he tell her what to do, the child end up in ICU. So he need to come off the wage and hush because I don't know what he used to do up the hospital. I used to do put up children for adoption.
I'm not certain if I can really subscribe to this suggestion or proposition that about the adoption, because I can't verify it.
You mean a lot of people used to get children from up the hospital because of Martin?
But please.
I have an auntie.
No, please. Just be with me, right?
Okay.
Please don't, let's go down the road there, because I cannot verify it, so we need not expose that, expose ourselves to it. And if you have that verifiable information, give it to me, and you can talk as long as you like and as hard as you like about it. But until I can verify it, I prefer to distance myself and the radio station from that. But so
Yeah, but I know it's true.
Yeah,
but
well,
anyhow,
if it's true,
I,
if it's true,
accept
just provide me with the evidence. I have
Yes.
no problem with that.
I accept
Until,
what you
yeah.
say. I will call you and tell you.
Yes, but not just call me
Okay.
and tell me, you need to show me though, right?
Yes.
As well. Not that I don't trust you, but in these times you have to be very cautious.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Well, thanks for your understanding, my dear. Anything else?
Okay. Well, I just want it to be good and safe drive home.
Thank you very much.
Okay then.
Have yourself a wonderful night, my dear.
Yeah, you too.
Yes, yeah. Yes, my straight dog family. I understand how we feel, how the things that are being peddled, on the station, on the different stations, just to sully the good name of Team Unity. And your Team Unity has done a good job as it relates to the COVID-19 response. At 9:20, caller, you're live.
Greetings.
Greetings, my brother.
Good night, Mr. Liburd. How are you going on, Mr.?
I am peaceful. Yourself?
Me giving thanks. Me just see I come out of the hillside there now, yeah. So basically what I call is, you play a clip there where one email I alluded about a back and forth was going between Mrs. Henry and the former ambassador, Sam Kondo. Just told her, and he said that it's government responsibility for doing the payment of the severance, payment to whatever was outlined for as a coordinates of what we see as the people in how we are facing right now. And I would like to ask, he said, he responded back to him and said that it's not really the government responsibility, just out of a favor. But I would like to ask, if it's not the responsibility, what basic context will we be able to label that these things allude to a legislation for everyone, not just some people in the industry like the tourism, but people in other farmers where we see work are being established even in the construction industry. So people can see some kind of level of redundancy to them when they do service like that. I just asking on that table there, please. Y'all have a safe night.
Have yourself a safe night as well. Not certainly I understand the question, but as severance, 1% is deducted from the workers. This has to be paid into the Social Security, but the funds were depleted under the Labour administration because of its bad management, and because the long service gratuity regulations or legislation put in place to grant or give gratuity, to those workers on the industrial side and the hospitality sector, but the fund was not really capitalized, so to speak. There's no money put into the fund to take out for these workers. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller.
Yes, Patches.
So,
when in the campaigning when we was campaigning and the Prime Minister said that because he management of the country go a surplus. You understand? And when the COVID-19 take place, the Prime Minister continued to say it, especially in the election, because that was campaign time. And you know that he has done it in reality. But that is what they're taking now. But if the Prime Minister could say bigger surplus, that means money in the country, money in it is, money this, money that. So what do they want them to do? The Prime Minister must just take the money and just spend the money like a drunken sailor. Patches been a hurricane season. We don't know how long this COVID is going to stop in the outer wall. And we don't know what you're going to do us yet. Because our father can't so and do us nothing much yet. Right? Like sick and death and whatsoever. But Patches, we still got to be careful. Because when out there suffer, especially like America and in Europe and in place, where we got ties with, and Taiwan and all those, we country gonna suffer too. You understand? Because we share with them, they share with us. And there's part of, especially Taiwan. So if they cannot do nothing to help us out there and the country shut down, no tourists can come to the border, the shores. Nothing gonna happen, and everything just going revamp just like that. It seems to me like that praying, Patches, that the COVID could just take over the whole world and just damage everybody in the economy and sink it sink. That when we see Johnny Liburd and all them that talk about that is they love sink it. They only love when the government in the opposition Labour in government to get what they want. They know about the country, they don't know about the people. And I start getting disappointed with Sam Kanda. You understand? Who served in government so long? Coming and talking all these ignorant and people stupid. You understand? Patches, you have a wonderful night again. God bless.
Wonderful night as well, my dear brother. At 25 past the 9 o'clock hour, we go straight back to the lines. I'll call you. Take this that call. Take this other call. What's going on there? A caller. What's happened to the phones there? Let's take this email then. Good evening. Read this email. Last week I sent an email stating that people could bypass the system and bring in negative certificates about corona. I am now hearing that that is exactly what happened in our neighboring island. God protects, yes, but Patches, don't be no fool and eat from any and everybody. Up to this 2020, people still don't know how to handle their money. The government give $1,000 per month and they mismanage the money, then turn around and blame the government. There's a doctor up the hospital. When anything is broken, the doctor cannot mend back or even come close to fixing the problem. Everything he touches is 2 to 3 inches off. Reads this email. This other email reads, this makes no sense to me. WHO with common sense, or who with common sense will listen Labour case and say that crap. Claim corruption and 6 seats, and in number 6 we had a 14% swing but no corruption. That makes no sense, reads this email. And saying hello to my Facebook massive, saying hello to my brother King from St. Thomas Flash. They're in St. Martin, Francis. They're in Florida. I've lost them. But yes, my Shazok family, in the event you have just joined me, we looked at the issue of the severance payments and the Severance Payment Fund. We looked at the Protection of Employment Act, and we looked briefly at the Protection of Wages Act as well, and the amendments that were made. At 27 past 9, I'll call you live.
Saying Patches, Greggy, how you doing, man?
I am peaceful, my brother. Yourself?
Easy, man. Patches, when I started to work at TDC in 99 or so, I remember my father on daily departing encouraging me to go and set up to the labor union. So I go and I ask a couple of elder men on the job, and a couple of them tell me point blank that the labor union is for labor people, and I from Canada, so that means I'm a PAM. And I found that extremely disappointing, and I understand why they say that. You know, after you see the history of the labor union was cannibalized by the Labour Party, because there was no official splitting off of the two entities. You can't have a union that is supposed to represent workers. What happens, and still be joined at the hip with a party that wants to be in government? What happens when the union and the party in government needs to come to a head for workers' rights? Impossible. You know what I mean? Next thing, in terms of the severance payment, you know, my own personal experience, I remember when I used to work for Flo, and we were laid off, and we were supposed to collect severance pay, and we had hells and devils to get it from the government. This was just before the 2015 elections, and we had to actually take it to a lawyer, because the lawyer had found it that the government cannot be taking out your money, and then when it comes time to pay severance pay, they don't want to pay. We had to take it to a lawyer and end up winning our monies. So is it that the government couldn't pay, or they just didn't want to pay? And that's just my personal experience.
The funds were depleted. You know, there was no monies in the fund. You know,
exactly.
Some people who got severance payment were not entitled it. You know, it was abuse.
Right.
On the Labour government.
So when some of them talk about severance pay and so, I will say to them that we had to carry to court, pay lawyer to get money from the government. So that means then, as you were saying, there really was no money in the fund, but had to fund it from somewhere because they know they're wrong. They were taking out people money still every month, mandatory. And when it comes time to pay, they don't want to pay. Anyway, that's it for me, Patches. You have a nice night.
Thanks for your intervention. Yeah, so correct, because on the Labour, the funds went south, as they say, you know, and this is why Prime Minister Harris had to put monies in the fund, into the fund, to as we say, capitalize the fund, because there's no money around, and in anticipation of what's happening now. And I spoke to a young lady on Friday who told me she's not interested in severance payment, so it's not everybody clamoring for payment, because she's of the view if she takes a request payment, because the employee has that discretionary authority to ask for their severance payment, but she's of the view we will open, our marriage will reopen at some time, and she'll want to get her job back. So that's the discretion of that particular employee. So employees have that particular option. But like I said, Prime Minister Harris, in fact, put money into the funds because it was depleted.
When we inherited the government of the country, the Severance Fund was in deep red. And we have sought professional advice to determine how best we can make the fund stronger. For the time being, and in response to what is emerging, the government will put $12 million in the Severance Payment Fund to ensure that those who qualified for their benefits will be able to have them. This is the heart of compassion of a responsible government.
Compassionate government, and in anticipation of what was expected to happen, the government put $12 million into the fund. But some of the questions you ask, we ask ourselves, and some people are discussing it, and it's fair comment as it relates to the situation now, because nobody ever anticipated a COVID-19, and the questions being asked is whether the framers of the legislation anticipated that there was going to be a pandemic that shut down the world, and asked the question whether, in fact, the Act of Parliament provides for severance in situations like this one, a pandemic situation, or in a normal situation. And things are not normal, like I said before. The pandemic has changed everything, literally everything around the world. And so has this pandemic changed the perspective as well, as it relates to the purpose, the objective, the outlook of the Protection of Employment Act. And these are some things, and at some it is a situation where really one can go back, one should go back to work. One is anticipated when the borders are reopened to get back to work. So the government has extended the period in terms of the stimulus package for 3 more months, I'm told. Additional for the 1 month, you can get the $1,000 payment for 3 more months. And the issues as it relates as well to the union and what happened to the union, and the misinformation being provided like this here.
One of the things that have us in this situation where we are now is the absence of an effective, efficient trade union. And I was saying to the country that this was a deliberate attempt by the government in 1980 to destroy the trade union. And people see what that means now. Sylvan is saying that in the 20 years that we had, we should have helped to build it back. But it's always difficult to build back things like that when you destroy. People become more dependent. People think they must get things for free because we encourage that. That is not a good thing to encourage in our society.
And that is so far from the truth, because in 1980, when the Protection of Employment or the Protection of Wages Amendment Act was passed, it was to give the workers back their rights to join any union they want to join, and not necessarily or not be mandated to have their monies deducted from their wages. And these deductions for obtaining or retaining employment was prohibited. Back then, you had to go to Owen Keynes, for example, may his soul rest in peace. He would go to the factories and insist that every member at the factory, on the industrial site, every worker, beg your pardon, must join a union, or join this, not a union I should say, but join the St. Kitts Nevis Trades and Labor Union. And that was what transpired back then. And that was wrong, my Straight Talk family. And that was exposed. And that was changed whenever the government changed in 1980, and the workers got back their rights to choose a union, and their rights to join any union they wish, choose a union, like I said. But the Protection of Employment Act was originally passed in 1986, so it has nothing to do. Another thing, it was said that the Protection of Employment Act was done for this. Another nonsense again, peddled or
I always like
by.
to put things in context. Context is everything. And you have to have the historical context, right? But after...
Well, I'll get back to that. Let me take this call. Caller, you live. Hello,
Good evening.
good evening, sir.
Patrick,
Good Lord.
you know, I heard sadly that same argument about in 1980. The government of the day under Dr. Simmons tried to destroy the union. Like you rightfully said a while ago, it's far from the truth. I was a union member, paid up 3 months ahead, applied for a job. Listen, I wrote the company of McAlpine in Barbados. The head office was in Coventry Road in Barbados. They wrote me back and told me when they were going to come to St. Kitts and where I could meet them at OTI. I met with them, and Mr. Purse, the Irishman, told me, no, he asked me if I have a clearance from the union. I said, what are you talking about? I'm a member of the union. He said, no, you have to get a clearance. That's the first time I knew about the clearance. So he said, go to the union now, because their office was going to be upstairs on the corner of Bank Street and West Square Street. I ran to the union. A certain dead woman, I won't call the name, tell another dead woman, and they're going to Owen Keynes and Lassie Rollins and tell me, no, you're not joining a union here for no work. Go down like Richard Keynes and Kennedy Simmons give work. And they bring back up my union card give me, and I had to turn off the union step like a sheepish dog. Never get the job. When I went back to Mr. Paul, a tall Irishman who was in charge of the project here, sympathizing me, and he said, I'm so sorry. Gave me $200 and said, I don't know what that could do for you, but see what it could help you with. Never get the job. They talk about Palm kill union. Them kill the union themselves with the stupidness. Remember the 25 cents case where Dr. Hubbard took court? They must, I mean, I just sometimes I prefer listening really get involved. We can't get so emotional sometimes. The lie and the half-truth and the innuendos. Huh? Bullshit. Beg your pardon. See you.
Okay, my brother, I understand your pain. The caller, you live. Okay, Mr. Call, yes, you had to go down by the late Owen Keynes, and he will determine whether you get to work or not. And that is what happened. And what happened in 1980, contrary to what this man is saying, what happened in 1980 was not this. Have a thought.
Have us in the situation where we are now is the absence of an effective, efficient trade union. And I was saying to the country that this was a deliberate attempt by the government in 1980 to destroy the trade union. One of the things that have us in the situation where we are now is the absence of an effective, efficient trade union. And I was saying to the country that this was a deliberate attempt by the government in 1980 to destroy the trade union.
Nonsense. Call you live.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I was a young man, 1979, and I went to the union to look a job. I remember Mr. Rollins, Lassell Rollins. He was my neighbor, pretty close neighbor. And my brother used to be around him too. He had a farm up by the cotton house on the opposite side here. And like a young man just leaving school, went to look a job. Rollins told me, go over Buckley's. They got matched over there. I was so disappointed. I never ever go back to the union to look nothing. I was young just before the election, 1980. I did everything that I could have done to ensure that Sir Kennedy Simmons get an opportunity to go in that house to represent this nation. I am thankful that we have come to what we are under the victimization and the oppression of the labor so-called union. We fought as a people, and they were not the people that fighting for us. So many times, I've heard people making complaints about this union and union. I thought it might have been a good, but I've grown to understand. They were just all for themselves. They were just victimizing the people, like the lady say. Labor is just for pain. Keep you poor, keep you underneath, always coming back to them to misuse and abuse in every way that you could. But we have overcome. Thank God for the ambassador that went on sea and has not returned, and Sir Kennedy Simmons and Mr. Keynes. They stood up and fight for our people. Shalom.
Shalom, my dear brother. Let's go back to the lines. Caller, you live. Hello, caller.
Hello, good night. Francis.
Yes, my brother.
Yes, good night.
Just turn your radio down, could you?
From the I got it. Okay. What I have to say, something you have to join the union. They come and take out the dollar every week. There's a lot of us they do so all over, public works, all over. So they're supposed to have a lot of money inside that place. Look at Matthew's house. Matthew's house is supposed to be one of the biggest shopping malls in Kingston. And have office and everything. When Mr. Clark them talking, I can't understand why they can't speak about look how Matthew's house be until now. That's terrible. With all the money they make. Have a good night, sir.
Have a good night as well. You understand the first year after Bradshaw amended the Protection of Wages Act in 1972. In 1972, he amended the act to create a cash cow for the St. Kitts Nevis Trade and Labor Union and introduced a section that dealt with the deduction of union dues. And it says, notwithstanding any or all of the provisions of the Principal Act, it shall be lawful for an employer acting in pursuance of a written agreement made between such employer and the union, not employee, employer and a union, bargaining on behalf of the workers employed by such employer to deduct from the wages of any worker an amount representing union dues or equivalent thereof. Let's go back to the lines. I'll call you live. Hello, caller.
Mr. Strater, good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm peaceful. Yourself?
Man, I wasn't going to call. I was just there enjoying you because it comes time that you just got to sit down, relax, and listen and get something out of it. But Mr. Strater, one of the very first man I think feel the victimization was my father. Mr. Strater, let me tell you something. If all the saddlers know what happened to my father from the Labour administration, my father had 13 of us to feed, and the government take the land from my father because of one manager. Mr. Strater, we had nothing else to hold on to, and we punishing saddlers because of the Labour government. St. John Plain come to us, come talk about election, and me tell St. John Plain, you say you no hold on our pens because you cause people to cuss us out. And my father begged them to give him back the land. They never give back my father the land. So we get victimization from the union. And last year was the man who come and tell me, look, you better hush your mouth now or I'll take the machete from you. Mr. Strater, what more you want on that? The Labour killed them oneself. So Mr. Strater, I just thank you that I get to share my father's story a little bit on your program. Mr. Strater, I'll see you when I see you. So if all the saddlers know what the victimization Labour did to us, God bless you. See you when I see you.
See you when I see you, my dear brother. Yes, there's so many things. So really, Kondo had this wrong. Wrong.
I always like to put things in context. Context is everything. And you have to have the historical context, right?
Historical context. Call your life. Hello, call.
Good night, Patrick. Good night, Mr. Liburd.
Good night, my dear.
I've been listening. I am not on the island. I've been listening. I was a victim of the Labour Union. I was working at Curtis Mattis. I work in the sugar industry. They used to take out your money whether you like it or not. They didn't ask you. Yet, if anything happened to you, they had a certain lady in Molyneux who said she was the union representative there. And you cannot go to her because she will tell you you is not a union member. If you want representation, you have to go into town and join the labor union. That was husband and wife because the union and the government is one. So that was husband and wife. So they're not representing you, number one. Number two, Curtis Mattis has closed down for a bit. They had laid us off. I was coming up Church Street when St. John Payne met me, took an ice cream I had in my hand and ate from it. And he asked me where I'm going. I told him I'm looking to see if I get it. He said, go to Massey's house, ask for Keynes, and tell him he sent me. When I went, I'm not afraid to call my name. When I went, Keynes, fully know he talked, then he asked me my name. I said to him, my name is Idris Bedford. He asked me what is my relationship to the young man of Phillips Village with the shop. I told him my uncle. That man looked me in my face and he said, sorry, I can't help you. That time I up and down with my mother saying labor, 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 labor. And that is what he told me. So they are the one who caused their own death. They commit suicide. So now they're looking on Dr. Simmons and all of them who did so much for young people to throw the weight on. Tell Sammy Dopey, get his facts right before he come on radio and talk nonsense. There are people out there like myself who went through the situation and we know it, so he must get his facts right. Have a good night, Patrick, and God bless you.
Can I ask a question, Ms. Bedford?
Yes, sir.
Did you say that your dues were being deducted?
Yes, it used to come from your salary, whether you like it or not.
But even though your dues were deducted, they said you were not a member? That's what you said just now?
Yes. There was a woman in Molyneux. She died now. Anyway, she named Miss William, Eunice William. She is telling you. She used to tell you are not a member. You have to go into town and go by the office.
Okay.
And join, pay money to join, and then you're a member. But even though your money is coming out, whether you like it or not, every pay date, your money is coming out.
That's interesting.
And you were not a member.
Okay.
And I talk in facts because it happened to me, and others, if they're honest, will say it.
Preston, thanks for your input. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Have a good night, my dear. And
Same to you.
And that is exactly what the Simmons administration changed by the Act of 1980, Act number 1 of 1980, to prohibit the deduction of people's money without their own consent. And the section reads, under the Protection of Wages Ordinance 1967, which is amended by inserting the following after section 19: deductions in the form of direct or indirect payments for the purpose of obtaining or retaining employment shall, underline shall, not be made from the wages of a worker by an employer or by an intermediary or labor contractor or recruiter. So what Sam's saying here is really nonsense.
Context is everything. And you have to have the historical context, right? But after 1980, after you had the change of government in 1980, when the trade union was systematically undermined and dismantled, and so the workers didn't have any organization to represent them, we had put in place what we call the Protection of Employment Act. That was supposed to do the work of the trade union.
What nonsense. Caller, you're live. Hello, caller?
Hello?
Yes, caller, you're live.
Yes, family, we're going.
Yes, New York Joe.
Yeah, yes, sir. You know, I wasn't going to call, but I hear sadness people in my car, so I had to call. I want you to look into something for me. Before I tell you what I want you to look into for me is, my father and Keynes used to run the union. Our cousins, They're cousins.
Okay.
But then, Clay Tweed run for PAM back in, I think, 1970 or something like that. 1970. Clay Tweed run for PAM. Keynes decided, no Tweed. I get no work in a sentence, My father was unemployed from then until 1980. My father had 10 kids. You understand? My father drive all kind of equipment, grab, crane, bulldozer, everything he drives. And Keynes, his own cousin, decided he now get no work because Clay Tweed run for PAM one time. No, I want you to look into this for me. I think a company came to St. Kitts one time in the 70s. I think it was McAlpine. I could be wrong. They offered to pay the workers in St. Kitts the equivalent of the U.S. minimum wage in U.S. dollars. I don't know if it was McAlpine or Higgs and Hill, but my father worked for one of them, or something like that, right? And the labor union tell them, no, that's too much money. They got to give them this amount of money, and they got to be easy. I want you to look into that for me. All right?
Okay. Got you, my brother.
All right.
I'll do my homework.
All right, talk to you.
Thanks a lot for your
yeah, man,
input.
easy. Yeah.
Another thing is, reads this email, we are going through a crisis, and Hosfords that values nothing is jacking up their prices sky high. For those who are saying open the borders, please let them know that their parents and entire family, including their children, could and will be affected. Everybody is dependent on the government. Is there anyone who assists freely without wanting a handout? My only input concerning merit is, all who want their money, give it to them, and who want to stay, let them stay. Read this email. Let's go back to the line. I'll call you live. Hello, caller. Are you there, caller?
Hello?
Yes, you're live.
Yes, the company was not, it wasn't Michael Point, it was Curtis Mattis that he was talking about, and it was not on the PAM, it was on the labor when they refused to pay the government say you don't need to pay them in US because this is not a US country, it's an iffy country. So it was the government decision not to make the people them get paid in US, and that was not on the Simmons. You have a good day.
Thank you very much. Curtis Mattis was a television company, manufactured televisions, I recall. McAlpine was more in the construction, so we trust one of you. All right, caller, you live. Hello, caller. Caller?
Hello?
Yeah, could you turn your
Yes, I never believe I connected.
turn your radio equipment down, can you?
Yes, Mr. Liburd is off.
My dear brother.
Well, I can't get in at all, but now I'm in. Give me a couple of minutes. I'm trying to answer to something Sam Kanda said.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I wonder if he forget, I don't want to say he lie, but when he said that the PAM government mash up the trade union, labor union, that's so far from the truth. When they had this when they introduced the closed shop operation, where they deducted workers' money, whether you're union or not, they had a thing there where with the sugar workers, because they were seasonal, they would not get all the money for the year by paying $1 a week. And they went and they doubled it to $2 without your authorization. And then, so before crop finishes, you would collect all the money for the union for the year. Again, that was illegal. There was a man named Deposwa, the connection in Challengers on Old Road, who traveled to England to work sometime before, and he came back and he was working at the sugar factory. And he took the matter to the court. And the judge at the High Court ruled in favor of Mr. Deposwa. Not the Marby man, his family. And he said that he was immoral and wrong and illegal, and they were supposed to give back the people the money. So the close shop thing done from that time there. So that was a good deed that Mr. Deposwa did. So I don't know if Sam got his facts. So I don't think I don't know, man. I don't know wrong. But he looked to me like
he was writing his own facts. He was writing his own facts.
Well, the station manager, along with the doctor, and who else? The same Sam. He look like when the wind blow, they get an idea. And as far as I'm concerned, they ain't got nothing they ain't got no plan to say what we could do as an alternative. But they're trying to criticize the readiness of the hospital for the coronavirus and so forth. Everything that is being done, they just criticizing, and they ain't got no alternative plan. He talking about when they had SARS or something. That's the doctor there. And I don't know where he coming from. SARS ain't nothing like this corona. And to me, something got to be wrong. And they keep saying that you played a tape a while ago where Dr. Harris had to put funds in the Severance Pay Fund, because no money was there, and they know he was there for a long time, and people who were put off from Cantel and others were there waiting for years. I remember some people in Nevis in particular, only since unity in power with the first term, they were able to get the money because money now went in the fund. And contrary to what Sam Kanda saying, I don't know what planet he live on. I don't know if it's this Earth, but I believe he live on another planet, because he just gasping, and then when the doctor say anything and Juni, he jump on it as if they're holding him up. So he need to stop that, because he doesn't sound good and he coming with half truth. When people were paying money, whether by will, when you're paying it against your will, the closed shop operation, you couldn't get the union to represent you, you know. I work at the sugar factory. You couldn't get the union to represent you. And then, much of the time when anything happened, when the shop steward go to try a case, they would go on the employer side. Because they know you're not a labor supporter, but you're only because they're taking out your money. So it's a lot of things happen to poor people. I know a fellow, I call him from Challenger, the whole world must be know. A taxi man right now. He got a job at what do you call over there? Royal Trinket. To work in the kitchen as an assistant. And because he wasn't talking any politics, some people from St. Paul get around him and goes around him and say they find out who his mother is. His mother was a PAM supporter, yes. She used to work where they make up the cards for the estate. And then they call Keynes, and Keynes come over and tell him he got to go. So the person now, the man, they say, well, he ain't do nothing wrong. Why you should? He say he can't work here
Not as long as Labour in power, you can't work here. The fellow have to get the job. I know a couple of others who can throw the book in the face and so on. They ain't gonna work because they're from challengers, because by then challengers had a good contingent of support for Pam. From the time Pam was from. Challengers people been behind Pam all the time. But I could go on and on and on, but for now another time I'm gonna cry and say some other things.
Yes,
When I come maybe Thursday.
Thanks a lot.
So I don't understand where these people come in. Some need to stop that here all crack on them. Where they're saying it ain't true. But then the thing is it again. They're saying these things, they've been saying them over and over, and they're still losing. They're losing going all the time. They ain't see. They bring a back and thing about Dr. Hobart and all them there, and they're still losing. So where else are going again?
Okay.
Yeah. Have a good night, Mr. Patrick.
Have a good night, my brother. As we wind down, I'll take perhaps 2 or 3 more calls. Call you live. Hello, caller.
Patrick,
My dear.
the thing with Curtis Mattis, good night again.
Okay.
It wasn't so Kennedy Alphonse Simon. Curtis Mattis, when that thing said that, when that the lady from Connecticut so said that is under Simmons, when the word used that we don't, when they said, the gentleman said he gonna pay us in US, Curtis Mattis had opened the building where government Printree was before they go up by the airport. That's the building we opened in. I used to work Curtis Mattis. Desmond Ward used to work there. John Saga, the grill thing there in the circus used to live there, the upstairs building and the Bay Road and in the circus. You know, the grill when you go upstairs to eat food.
Yes, yes.
Well, he used to work there. Desmond Ward used to work there. It was Lassell and Mr. Keynes came there to have a meeting with the staff and with the people them who the place belongs to, who was running the Curtis Mattis. And when they said they're going to pay in US, we were so glad that we clapped we hand. And then the Lassell said, no. You can't pay them in US money because they can't spend US money. And Mr. Keynes said, no, you can't pay them in US money. And then a lot of us said, well, we ain't joining the union. I know I did not join the union. Because I tell them they don't represent nobody. They only take a cup of coffee from the white man and that's it.
Yeah.
So it was said,
yes.
Lassell and Mr. Keynes, I remember those two gentlemen, good. Lassell Rollins was from the village. And that did make me take my mouthpiece from Lassell. Because if the people decide to pay us in US, let them pay us in US.
Okay.
That's the desire.
Thank you very much, my dear. Well,
yeah, okay then. Pleasant night just when you reach home.
Same to you, my dear.
Yeah.
Okay, as we wind on, I'll take and make these my 2 final calls. Make this my final call. Call you live.
Yes, again, Patrick, good night again. Patrick McAlpine came to St. Kitts in the summer of 1979. I could remember that vivid. In 1979. And the person who talked about Higgs on Hill was in the 70s. All the 70s at the airport. Yeah. And have a safe flight. Drive home, Patrick. God bless.
Thank you very much, my dear brother. Thanks a lot. I call you live.
Yes, sir. Good night.
So,
even when the Marriott came in, Marriott wanted to pay in US, and they said no, you have to pay the premium in EC. So, what people saying, people still saying.
Okay.
You don't kill yourself. Have a good night.
Have a good night, my dear brother. I'll take this, make this my final call. Caller, can you use 20 seconds? 30 seconds?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Patrick, good night. This
Good
is
night.
Sugar.
Sugars from Down West Farm.
Yes. When Mr. Keynes know you're Pam and you're cut cage, you know, and you won't join the union, you know, you have to take the people matches, you know. And let me say good night to Western and the Toadlocks and my good friend in the police force, the bad boy police boy. Let me say good night to you. And good night to Jacqueline. And Patrick, I know you're out of time, so this is the time I don't get in, but anyway, no problem. Next time I'll get in only.
Thank you, my brother.
I sing a piece of song and so on.
Okay.
All the best to you, sir.
Same to you, my brother. Thanks for your understanding. And yes.
One of the things that have us in this situation where we are now is the absence of an effective, efficient trade union. And I was saying to the country that this was a deliberate attempt by the government in 1980 to destroy the trade union.
No, in fact, it was Douglas and perhaps yourselves as his deputy who destroyed the trade union. And it's so sad. It's so sad when you hear this disinformation and public manipulation by a former chief medical officer, along with you, my dear brothers, and former deputy prime minister and minister of labor. The modus operandi was clear from the beginning of your discourse, which lasted 1 hour, after which the distinct pattern and or method of politics they all spewed was very clear for all who listened. But truth be told, we are doing well, and people know that, my Straight Talk family.
About the COVID response here, I have to give the government high kudos for that, without question. I flew in here February 11th from United States, and when I came at the airport, the customs people were already wearing their masks and their gloves.
So we were prepared, and that's why our cases were kept at this low level, 17 total. And we want to keep it that way, my Straight Dog family, even at the time when we are considering reopening our borders. Our safety and our health comes first. But my Straight Dog family, I'm out of time. My time is done, and I got to run. The lines are going, but I really got to run and make way for the mayor of St. Paul's, Theo Clark. But until we connect, my Straight Dog family, I want to first of all thank Almighty God for guiding our conversation tonight, and as always, I want to thank you, the many callers who call in, and there's some of you who just can't get in. I don't know why, because sometimes my lines just they are idle, and then they just light up. But if you don't succeed at first, then try again. For those of you who just listen, those who send emails, I just want you to know that all of you make Straight Talk, and for that reason, I say a big thank you. I want to hail up in particular my Facebook Massive and those on YouTube from all over the world. Thank you for participating in our program. Until we connect on Thursday, my good family, have yourselves the best of what's left of tonight. And until we connect, remember that whatever your mind conceive, that you will achieve, but you first got to believe. So when you wake in the morning, thank God for the morning light. Thank Him for taking you through the night. And my Straight Talk family, keep moving on. Bye-bye until we connect on Thursday at 8 o'clock.
In the morning, I thank God for the morning light. Give Him thanks and praises for taking me safely through the night.